Welcome to the Growth Fire Podcast, where we engage with top business leaders who share their experiences and provide real insights that help them attract customers, retain staff, and grow their bottom line. Now, let's get started with the show.
Hi there, I'm Kevin Horrigan, host of the show where I feature inspiring business leaders from various backgrounds and industries willing to share their stories and insights. Our podcast is brought to you by Spinutech. Spinutech is a team of 160 digital experts who help their clients attract new customers, retain existing, and ultimately helping those customers grow. To learn more about Spinutech, you can find them online at www.spinutech.com. And today's guest today is Matt Brown. Matt has been a serial entrepreneur since the mid-1990s and stays very active in many digital marketing and media and SaaS companies. Today, Matt serves as president and CEO of ThumbStopper, a company powered by proprietary technology for brands that amplify their content through their independent retailers' social media networks and search presence. Matt is also president of trucks.com, a company focusing on revolutionizing how SUVs, trucks, vans are searched, built, traded, and sold by consumers and enthusiasts. Matt is also CEO of the Brown household, which his wife and daughters are definitely keeping him very, very busy. Matt, welcome to the Growth Fire Podcast.
Wow, that was a mouthful about the businesses. And yes, my number one job is around those two teenage daughters of mine.
Yes, I see lots of pictures of them on social media. You're a very blessed man.
I am. Yeah, they're wonderful kids. I don't know how that happened. Their mother's influence.
Yes, she must be a great mother and father. I'm just kidding.
She is. Yeah, she is. As an entrepreneur, sometimes the mom has to wear both hats for sure.
Absolutely. I think many can share that story. It's a little bit of a conflict of where to spend time and just trying to make sure you're allocating as much as you can everywhere you need to.
Absolutely. Yeah, but thanks for having me on the show, Kevin. I'm really looking forward to this.
Yeah, no, excited to hear the Matt Brown story. So Matt, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, maybe what you thought you wanted to do once you grew up, a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, these things, I'd need a couch probably if I want to get to this story correctly. But grew up in the Midwest, so born and raised in the Midwest through like high school years. And ended up in Florida with my grandparents, spent a lot of time with my grandparents. My parents were very young parents, and spending time with them, they migrated down here in the winter from the Midwest, fell in love with Florida. That's how I ended up a Floridian. My grandmother was kind of a woman ahead of her time, but she was always, pushing me into one thing or another, whether it was sports or buying me a TRS-80. And I can remember that computer being something that I liked. And so I have my grandmother to thank today for being a tech CEO. But that's, if I wrapped up my life quickly, and of course, I've been married for, 26 years. I hope that's right. It's a lot of years. Turned 50 this year. So a lot of things have changed. Got two girls in college, one in a nursing program, and one that wants to be a YouTube star. I think everybody who has a teenager can relate with that. So, yeah, I've got my hands full with a couple businesses and a family.
Yeah, that's great, Matt. Growing up with your mother and growing up in the Midwest and coming to Florida, getting a computer early in your upbringing, things of that nature. Did any of that at that time when you're going through that experience, did it help you think about, what you wanted to do when you hit the working force?
I tell my kids this all the time that, they both say to me, we really don't know what we want to do. And I said, you won't until you're like 40. And we've got this thing all backwards with a formal education and, how we're pressuring our kids into a certain direction. It takes a lot of years to kind of figure that out. And, my beginning was a very small high school and grew up kind of in a farm environment. So we learned to work hard, and I've always enjoyed working. Like my wife tells me all the time, even when I'm at home, I'm doing something, and I remind her, well, you want the door to open and close correctly. So those are little things you can't get people to do anymore. So right. I've always had that busy mentality, but shifting to Florida, I had one corporate job, and it was recruiting developers, and so between my grandmother and just maybe an angel over me, whatever it was, kind of guided me into what my gift became, which was UI design. I was able to mechanically fix some things, either about an industry or an existing solution. And I've always enjoyed that. I tell people all the time, developers, you might not know this, but most of them are good mechanics. They took their speaking spells apart, right, when they were kids. Guys like you and I, we're both like that. We took our toys apart. We wanted to know how they worked and how they went back together. But wrapping everything up, it's a wonderful existence. It was great, the Midwest, the experience there. But boy, I'm happy to be a Floridian. This is just, it feels like home. And as you know, knowing you for such a long time, Tampa's a wonderful city.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. And I think, we're very lucky to have been had an opportunity to meet a lot of entrepreneurs in this community that have helped us learn a little bit more outside our upbringing. I grew up somewhere in the Midwest too, so smaller town, and
remember that. Yeah,
my exposure to what ideas I might have, I didn't have as much exposure to what those ideas could grow or be to until I found myself in a larger community and who had more leaders in the area that I eventually became, friends with or associates with or peers with, and eventually became mentors. And I'm wondering, Matt, have you had any mentors in life, and how have they helped you from the upbringing you started with, help maybe give you a new vision or shift direction based on some of the conversations or feedback you've had from them?
Yeah, I think more times than not, two things. Entrepreneurs are born. You can't learn that, the traits that it takes. And then the entrepreneurs that are successful, we're lucky enough to find the right mentors. And usually that has to be somebody different than a spouse or a best friend. That usually has to be somebody that you can talk both at the business level and the personal level, and you be able to relate with those people. And everybody's different. And I found a mentor in an old Italian guy by the name of Alfred Angeloni, who was on kind of the financial auditing side early in his career, tells funny stories that what made him an entrepreneur is, even though his father was happy that he worked for Arthur Andersen, they wouldn't let him drive a Rolls Royce. And in the guys he was auditing, he thought he was smarter than them. And they all had Rolls Royces. And so there was something about that old type of character that I wanted to learn from. And boy, he was a book of knowledge, because if you've ever seen the movie, is it Pretty Woman, where Richard Gere buys the businesses that are kind of broken and either breaks them apart or fixes them. I felt like that movie was about Alfred. He was just a book of knowledge. It didn't matter on the revenue side or the operational side. He learned all of it from the auditing up. So yeah, I mean, that was a guy, and I've had many, you know some of them. Mark, my board of directors, I got advisors, but yeah, you have to have mentors, and I know you've had the same, right?
Yes, I have. Absolutely. I have. And, I just, I've coined a few phrases. People joke about Kevin has a bunch of famous phrases, but, one of them is, be careful what you wish for, because when you get there, you'll change your mind. And I think my mentors have, helped me see what my company could be at a greater scale or size than I did. And I was like, wow, if ever you could get to that particular point, that would be utopia. And then when you reach that particular point, you realize there's still a lot more opportunity in the tank, and you change your mind and reestablish a new set of goals. And your mentor continues to just be able to share their insight, their inspiration, their past experience, and be able to see things outside the forest that you see. And typically have the right motivators, the right conversations, the right carrots. And sometimes there's something in it for them. Often there's nothing in it for them, but just wanting to give back, right? Just trying to share what they've learned, because that's how they grew in their role too. And often that comes with great advice, and sometimes it comes with tough love. But it's always meant to be just helping you become better. And the better I can become as a person, the better I can be as a leader of a company, the better I can be a steward in my community, whatever it may be. But they definitely gave me a vision of what I could be doing better than I was able to see under my own lens myself.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and mentors can be like friends. I've had some bad mentors. So the ingredients have to come together correctly, and there's so
Yes.
many for them to work. I think the great entrepreneurs, and I don't consider myself in that category, but I think when you read about the great entrepreneurs, you read that they had big influences at the right time about the right things.
Yeah,
And
no,
they
I absolutely.
and they usually needed to be very positively motivated, or problems happen in business. You have to have good people around you.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think one of the first pieces of advice I received 20 years ago from one of my mentors was saying, Kevin, you are who you hang with. Make sure you
Mhm.
hang with the best group of people you can.
Yeah.
And I still read a lot today. I read a bunch of people putting out the New Year's resolution blogs and things of that nature, and saying how to make your 2023 better. And what a parallel that I see is associate yourself with people better than yourself. And so
Yeah.
that 20-year-old advice is still advice circulating around today. And then as my kids progressed through grade school and high school, I remembered a similar phrase, but it wasn't about being a leader. It was about your children. And the phrase went, how your kid's going to develop, and where will they end up? And the phrase went, show me their friends and I'll show you their future. And it was
Yeah.
very similar
Yeah.
to you
Yeah.
are who you hang with. And so, that piece of advice has stuck with me for more than 2 decades. And, I think it's still so relevant today. And, continuing to find others who have experiences outside what yours are, so you can learn and be able to reestablish vision and goals that are outside, again, what your lens currently sees it as today.
Yeah, no question. Two things from Alfred, right? It's not if bad things happen, it's when they happen, how you react to them. And to the other portion of it is around the people. Um, it's really the important element. It,
Yes.
it,
Yeah.
it, it really is the important element.
Matt, it's so funny as we have guests on this Growth Fire podcast, we talk about, their insights and experiences so they can help others grow. And there hasn't been a single episode of this podcast yet where mentors haven't come up. And so I usually finish the mentor conversation with this question. Did Alfred and you have a conversation that Alfred knew he was your member or your mentor, or was it more of just indirect conversations taking place and you were just absorbing as much as you can, but never had a formal conversation about you were really seeking him to be your mentor?
I wasn't seeking him to be a mentor. As a matter of fact, I met him, and when I left the meeting after the first meeting, Mark Vitello introduced me. I told him, tell him that guy to lose my number. I couldn't. He had an alligator custom purse, a handkerchief. He was dressed like something out of a magazine. His reading glasses. The guy's style was just out of this world. Very, very elegant. And
Yes.
he was very brash, and he was very stern, and he was very to the point. And I hated it initially. And then Mark begged me to give this guy another chance. And I started spending time with Alfred, and it turned into me spending 2 weeks in his home, as you know, in Rhode Island. So
Yes.
This guy became like a father, but no, it molded into a relationship the right way.
And I'm so interested to share that too. My first financial CPA was a guy who sounds exactly to the T. I'd never met someone who had more expensive suits, drove the nicest car, wanted to make sure he parked it as close to the front door of the business as possible so you could see what car he was
I was
driving.
so shut off by it, like
Yeah,
initially,
and
but
it's
then
like,
I
but this is what I'm paying.
realized, yeah,
Yeah, this is
exactly.
what I'm paying for. This is what my fees are going towards, right? And
Yeah,
at first it was a turnoff, but it just was his shtick of how he operated, and he earned that
yeah.
right. Yeah, it was
thought-
the very first similar experience.
You touched on a thing about like some people do it for the money and some people don't. Initially, Alfred didn't, and then I got to the point where I felt guilty
Yes.
because I always thought that a lot of the successful things that were happening to me were influenced by him.
Yes.
Decisions about selling the company, hiring an investment banker, when and how to get through the process of the reps and warrants, the nightmare things for an entrepreneur to go through without help. and sometimes hired help is different than help that you're close to, that knows you personally, knows how that you're going to deal with things. And it got to the point where I ended up paying him both in equity and in cash because I felt obligated for him to be on the upside. And the relationship changed in a big way because these are entrepreneurs. And why are they, they're motivated by money.
Right.
So
yep.
it not that it needs that, not that the best relationships need that, but man, it's like Dan Pena said, whoever doesn't like money doesn't know where to shop.
Well, and I think, sometimes today as leaders too, we're trying to figure out, how to motivate our teams and things of that nature. And we read so much that money isn't a reason, yet sometimes people use, bonuses or rewards, financial rewards, and find out performance change with those as well. And so sometimes I read, the advisor's advice, and
the only people that say money doesn't matter are wealthy people.
Yeah, it may be true. Yes. Yeah. So Matt, I appreciate the insight on your mentors and your upbringing and things of that nature. Let's shift into the businesses you're in today. So, maybe describe a little bit about the two companies you're in today. Maybe we'll start there.
Yeah, two companies. So ThumbStopper.com, I'm the founder and CEO of that company. We sold a company in the auto space that was in the business of handling inventory across sites like Craigslist, eBay, sites that usually be one-offs, and we'd handle mass amounts of inventory, typically 8 to 10 million vehicles at a time across the auto spaces. After I sold that company, I was working on a social media business. That social media business today is ThumbStopper. We work with enterprise brands across a lot of verticals, so household names. We have 65 brands today, and we handle all the organic content for the brand, everything they create, that they sell, that they share up to their social media and presence pages. We handle that and connect the retailers to that same content at the local level.
Yep.
And we're hyper focused on the local retailer and the organic side, just organic content, videos, pictures, all the things that you would read about at a brand's corporate page. And there's a ton of benefits in that, and maybe we can get into that, maybe not. And then a new business that I have is trucks.com. So we're going to give trucks what its destiny has always been, is the ability to be a marketplace that's more Web 3.0 friendly.
Yeah, what a domain, trucks.com. I mean,
oh man, I'm so excited about this.
What a domain. That is,
and I'm a motor, and I love motors, as you know. It's in my DNA.
I'm a car and truck guy as well myself, but a passionate digital marketer too. And that's got to be one of the most powerful domains that I think. I got the chills just thinking about the opportunity with trucks.com. What a humongous opportunity.
I'm honored that I get to lead this one, and this is the first one that that kind of domain presence. It's going to be interesting, to see how it reacts. I know initially we just put up an interim site and the tens of thousands of unique visitors, and we stripped the meta tags and the keywords and everything off it. I just said, get that old ugly site with the content down, retire that thing. I don't want my name on it anymore.
Right.
And we're literally building live. Like it's coming soon in July, and a little bit of mystique about what we're going to be around the enthusiast side, but I'm excited about trucks.
And it's already just cranking out traffic just because the domain authority.
It's crazy. I don't know yet. I've never seen anything like it. I can't wait to talk to you about that off top.
Yes. Yeah. No, you can see my smile. It's genuine. That's a huge opportunity.
I know you love motors too.
You love motors, marketing, digital. That's a sweet one. That's a beautiful domain.
Yeah,
Matt, in social today, what are you seeing today as tactics that are helping your clients engage with customers today for what your visibility is in social today?
Like always, Kevin, I mean, even, some things never change, right? Having good creative never changes. So, and the engagement around that creative, I mean, that's why I've always respected you. I can remember you inviting companies and like Microsoft to talk to them about that. Right. And so having good creative is the key. If I get a brand and their creative is not gelling with kind of what's going on in the internet, and we all know, memes and sarcasm, and some of these things, play in if you want viral content. So depending on what the brand's looking for, if they're looking for just constant engagement to me, the best fans are the people of your retailers. And
Right.
for a couple of reasons. Number one, the retailers usually sell the competition, so you have to be there, right?
Yep.
Just like on that physical shelf, you need to be there on that digital shelf. But the creative's a big piece of what I believe the foundation still starts at.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Matt, you talked about engagement. Can you share maybe what you are tracking or what your clients are tracking is maybe the benchmarks today that mean the most to them?
Yes, and that changes by vertical too. So we're looking at we're in chainsaws and we're in jewelry, high-end jewelry, and we're in musical instruments. So again, I'm not trying to dodge, but it really I'd have to really have to focus in on the vertical because they all change. Some are looking at just brand awareness. So your typical social engagement metrics around clicks, reaction, shares, comments, et cetera, et cetera. The ThumbStopper is hyper focused on that at the local level. Most
Yes.
brands, our net retention rate's 104%. So we have our original customers when we launched in 2017.
Wow.
There's been very little disengagement with that side of it. What does every metric want? ROI. What does it cost to sell something?
Sure.
And you either have two things, right? You have one of two things: a service or a product.
Yep.
And then what? And I'm not sure it's even measurable anymore in most instances, depending on whether you're starting with organic, and you have to have an organic presence, or starting with focused or social listening, or are you engaging on TikTok today in their platform? I can see home repair is heavy there, and the ROI is huge.
Right.
Dental implants that are very focused, easy to get an ROI on. Some verticals, JB Star, a client of ours of high-end jewelry, whole different approach, whole different game. So it's so vertical focused, as you know.
Yep.
We could talk about that for hours.
Well, and I think you said, at the end of the day, they're trying to figure out how much it takes to sell their product, right? And then and today, we all still are trying to make sure we can do the best to be able to provide that information. And sometimes we can, and other times we feel good, but I don't know if we feel 100% convinced we can track all those things today. And as we continue to find new channels and new approaches to take into marketing, it continues to give more opportunity to attract, but sometimes less ability to measure. And so, we're constantly in this adventure of trying to attract more, sometimes at the risk of losing some measurability to things, and trying to have confidence with our brands that we serve that it's worthy of the attraction side of the risk, even if you can't measure it, just to see if you can be able to create some kind of lift out there instead of only focusing on what can be tracked and maybe losing out on some opportunity to attract outside some areas that maybe you're not 100% sure all the tracking mechanisms are going to be in place as you're experimenting with new different approaches of where to invest time and dollars.
Yeah, we got an email from a brand the other day in the power sports business, that a retailer, I think it was the third largest retailer that they had that sold their product. The brand was Kawasaki, and Kawasaki has a new product out, a new side by side, and the retailer had sent them an email saying, "Hey, this ThumbStopper organic post brought in a consumer and they paid cash for one of these units. These are expensive machines."
Right.
So, we're seeing that. I'd love to be able to connect that, and we're coming up with ways to have landing pages so you can kind of connect and match the lead up to either the point of sale or their DMS.
Right.
Man, those are big integrations, and we're trying to get into some of those touch points, but it's all over the board depending on the vertical again.
Well, and good news is you were able to hear about that one situation, but how many times did that happen? And you never heard about it, and never was able to let Kawasaki or yourself know that your advertising is working, even when it's just a walk-in customer.
The critics are loud. Usually, the critics are really loud today. Getting good news like that, is somebody has to feel really good about that. Good news to share, or they have to be just a person that's trying to share good news. But
Right.
It's like you say, it doesn't happen a lot. But that feedback woke me up to going, we really got to connect this organic to the actual product or service they sell in that point of sale. That's the Shangri-La for
Right.
being able to track how powerful organic is, because number one, for the most part, it's free
Right.
to place the organic on the walls. So.
Right. Yep. No, great feedback. So Matt, two more questions. You talked about you have 65 customers today, but how do you today generate new customers? How much of it is marketing, or how much is it outbound sales related? Can you share a little bit about what your go-to-market approach is to attract new business?
Yeah, big changes for us in that department. Ours is all revolved around called the revenue department. We had a separate marketing department and a separate sales department. We were broke in there, and any SaaS platform is. That's something I learned by hiring some consultants to come in and evaluate what we were doing. The first thing we had to do is come up with the definition of our ideal customer profile, our ICP, right?
Yep.
And as you know, that's where it starts. Once we did that, we realized that we needed to put together this BDR AE relationship. So BDR, business development representative, outbound phone calls, emails, work on LinkedIn, your traditional BDR outbound.
Yep.
For every couple BDRs, you end up with an account executive, an AE. The AE is the person, once you have a sales accepted lead and they decide that it's accepted, right? And our ICP is, if you're a brand that has a product or a service and you have 100 independent retailers, you need ThumbStopper to connect to your retailer's social media and stream all the right stuff. We don't want to stream snow plows to Tampa Bay Power Sports because we don't get snow, right? So you don't want that trickle down effect that everybody gets the same stuff. So there's some AI involved. But yeah, like when you look at the kind of the path to that whole process, that's what we want.
So it sounds like a lot of outbound targeting. If you identified your ideal customer profile, a lot of outbound with some business development reps who get something sales qualified and turn it over to an account associate. But sounds like
and marketing, and marketing is tucked in as part of the revenue team, not a sales and marketing team. Now, not right, wrong, or indifferent. I mean, the companies do it different ways, but we built a revenue team. Marketing is only sales enablement other than our organic presence, which is still sales enablement, because if you have a brand go research you as a social media company, you should be a social media company. So we drink our own ingredients, if you will.
So you're preaching the choir. You're drinking your own Kool-Aid, so to speak. So your internal marketing team is really supporting sales and helping them, work an interest or just making sure that are known in the areas.
The CRM campaigns, the cookies that are following the journey, so marketing to us is only sales enablement. They are all one team, part of the revenue team. They work in unison. They listen to each other's, problems and solutions. And so we've got them working in unison. That's worked out very well. We added 25 brands last year.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing, Matt. Matt, so one final question here. So our audience today loves to learn from inspired leaders like yourself here. And can you share, what is your source of keeping, on the innovative edge, the cutting edge? Where are you finding you're spending time that you might want to share that some of our listeners today might benefit from knowing where your source of education and staying current is?
Yeah, a lot of it comes from my team. I mean, we've hired up the youth, and I have 2 teenage daughters. I turned 50 this year, and so or last October, 22. So finding inspiration, you find it around where you're at all day, and that is the team that I'm working with. And so I'm so inspired by the group of people that we've been able to put together. And there's a reason they made the Bad News Bears like a real thing. I feel like it's the most eclectic group of people that I believe that we're going to win some championships. I mean, but that's where I'm mostly finding it. I do listen to podcasts as well. That's why I think these are very beneficial, what you're doing to kind of give back that information. This is a lot of dedication, and you're just perfect for this, Kevin.
Boy, and I love your quote, with the bad news bears, but we're going to win a bunch of, championships together. That's a great saying, Matt. I got the chills when you said that. So, Matt, we so appreciate your time today. You've been talking with Matt Brown, CEO of ThumbStopper and president of trucks.com. Matt, if anyone wants to get in touch with you as a result of hearing this, what's the best way they can reach out to you?
LinkedIn is always easy, right? Business to business. But definitely you can visit our podcast as well, brownonbrand.fm. So if I was going to give a shout out, maybe we're resurrecting and doing season 4 here.
Yeah, no, it sounds great. Matt, thank you so much for being a guest on our Growth Fire podcast. We really appreciate your time and contributions today.
Thank you, Kevin.
Absolutely. Good seeing you, Matt.
Thanks for listening to the Growth Fire podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.